Well, it's a chilly morning. It's probably, well, what's it say? It says 18 degrees. And that pond was ice free this last week, so. Oh, shut up, car. Bob's already up. Bob's already up here. Got some interesting old saws, I think, in the back. I'm sure he does as well. And I'm about a half hour late, so I'm sure there'll be some commentary on that. When we first were planning this, they were saying it was going to be a snowstorm. Now, I don't see a lot of snow, do you? Morning, Bob.
It's a little nippy this morning. The lowest I saw on the way up was 15.
Yeah, it says 18 right here. Yep. At least my cab does.
Yep.
So a little bit of breakfast here.
What's left of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to build this up so that when we come back, we've still got something left.
On. Okay. Well, another day. I think the weather turned out better than we expected.
Yeah.
You know, a little cloudy, but
it's like 17 degrees when I got here this morning.
It's still pretty chilly.
Yeah, it's right around freezing, I think.
The premise today is regular saws for regular guys.
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3. Of course, you can argue whether or not these are regular people next to these saws, but that's a whole different discussion. Our premise is that a whole lot of wood has been cut with saws just like this that don't have a lot of bling on them. They're not modded. They're pretty stock. For that matter, they're completely stock. They're not too particularly special. They're just average saws. And Bob threw a requirement into this when we started putting this together, that not only should they be regular saws, but they need to be open port saws. So I don't know if this is or not.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, the thesis here is that, you know, everybody reads stuff on the internet, and a lot of times somebody will come in their store and they'll start like, yeah, I've been reading online, doing some research, and that right away means I have to start looking for the reset button for this guy. And yeah, sometimes they'll come up with stuff that's really just out of left field. And like, so they said they read that online. I'll say something like, yeah, so who wrote that? And then, well, I don't know, but I mean, I just read, well, how do you know that guy knows what he's talking about? And one of the things that we noticed that, yeah, keep in mind, we still like to play with our 372s and the hot rods and everything else, but you know, all these normal everyday saws kind of get overlooked because the consensus is in the online community, well, they're not cool enough.
That's it.
And one of the things that gets repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated is, well, you want a closed port saw. You don't really want the open port saws. I mean, they can, you know, they should really avoid them. They don't run that good. They're, you know, and we kind of realized that most of the saws that get sold kind of fit into that open port definition. And an awful lot of wood gets cut with those. And it gets, here again, it gets repeated to the point where people think they're undesirable. Yeah, there's a little more performance in a closed port saw, but that doesn't mean that these are slugs. So, and I think most guys that are watching this know what an open port is versus a closed port. And
if not, we got a whole pile of videos you can dig through and find some.
We don't have any cylinders to show you. So the kind of today's requirement was, yeah, you got to have, you know, open port saws. And that's what we're going to run with because, you know, this is kind of hedgerow work on a farm, and you know, that's why a lot of these things were built for this kind of work. For the guy that needs a bigger than, you know, than the average box store saw, but he doesn't really want a pro saw. And that's why stuff like this Rancher, that Walt thinks it's a big deal for me to run, the terms like, we can see the marketing here, you know, terms like Rancher with Husky or Farm Boss with Still, you know, that's kind of designed for this environment here. and it's just a little bit of a bigger saw. This is the 460. The 460 and the 455 is Husky's best-selling chassis in the country. Similarly for steel, the 290, 291 or whatever it is now with the redesign, that's their best-selling saw. And it's easy to say that, well, you know, the 290 isn't a 461 and this isn't a 372, but they wouldn't sell them in those quantities if they didn't work and get the job done. So we realized that if this is the best-selling saw, then there's a lot more guys that own these than own, you know, hot-rodded, you know, 395 XPs.
Well, it reminds me of that old scenario about flies and horse manure. You know, 2 billion flies can't be wrong.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And so this was kind of, we've been kicking this idea around for a couple of years now. We want to call it the Rodney Dangerfield saws.
That's true.
The saws that don't get any respect. So people make fun of these, but, you know, they're going to get everything done today that we need to get done. And, you know, we're not going to have the stopwatch out. None of these saws have been on the degree wheel or your lathe or anything like that.
And they haven't been on a test log.
So, you know, the newer stuff is, you know, you got a saw like this which was designed to be what it is, kind of a property owner saw. You might have a lot of property. I wouldn't really call it a homeowner saw, but it's a plastic case, and it was designed, you know, from a clean sheet of paper to be what it is. You know, a generation back or two, you know, what the companies would do is they would take the Pro chassis like this. This is a 625, and they would just take like the 630 or 670, and then they'll just put an open port cylinder on it. The other thing about the open port cylinders, they're not as peaky as the closed port. The power band, you know, it doesn't go as high, but it's a little broader, and I think they recognize that a lot of farmers, maybe not you, but a lot of guys, you know, keep cutting when the chain gets a little bit dull, so the power comes on a little bit sooner with some of these.
That's true.
This 625, this is a goofy story, I shouldn't even say this, but a former girlfriend got me this saw at a garage sale for 10 bucks.
Wow.
And I said, how much? And I said, you know, I was like, that woman, you know, she said, so her husband passed away, so so Meg picked this up. Meg's a good girl, and a funny coincidence is that today's Sunday and her birthday's Tuesday. So happy birthday, Meg. Thank
Pretty
you.
good. Now she's...
And Walt's got one too. So this is the only thing where we really got the same saw here.
I'll put this one down. This is just yet another 625. Its origins came from your workshop. I don't know. It's kind of like the...
So how stock is this? I see holes in a muffler.
That's a Bob modification right there.
Yeah.
Isn't this the one you had the guys from Rochester down?
Oh yeah, Jason Woodchucker and his brother built that.
Yeah, it was
All
out
right.
of a box of parts.
All right.
And it came back here for some reason and landed in my hands. And about the only thing non-stock about this is all the cleaning fluid that's all over it because I put it in the parts cleaner. Other than that, it's stock that I know of.
Yeah.
I saw a gasket in there too.
Yeah. This doesn't have one.
Well, this does.
I cut the piston. This actually runs pretty good. And I figured these will be for the bigger, if we do some bigger stuff today.
Yep.
Most of what I think we're doing is kind of 50cc class stuff. And for me, it's primarily going to be this. As far as like regular saws for regular guys, I mean, the 55 and 51 chassis was so numerous over so many years. It started out with the 50, then the 51, then the 55 and 51 ran concurrently. At some point near the end of this chassis' life, they wrote Rancher on it, and they sold it as their 55 Rancher. And this open port cylinder, they were selling this with a 20-inch 3/8 bar. So this does have some torque, you know, and you see how good this one was cutting.
Yeah.
And you some kind of suspicion about why it's cutting that good.
Yeah.
Which
I
means
do, because I've seen that saw before.
Well, look, this is the open port. This is not a closed port.
Does it have a 8-pin or a 9-pin?
Well, yeah, yeah, it's got an 8. It's got
Does
an
it
8
have a 325 chain?
square ground
Oh, jeez.
with an 8-pin rim. Well, this is perfect for this. That's
is.
why this is cutting good. But we talked open port,
That's it.
right? So I did not break the rules.
No, you did not break the rules.
No. So, why did you?
No.
Whoa, there was a delay there. There was a delay there.
All right. Here, well, if I broke the rules, it's out of sheer ignorance, not out of anything intentional. So anyway, this is a 257, and again, this came out of, this actually came from your place as well, didn't it?
Yeah, that was the buyout stuff.
And the only thing non-stock on this is the paint on the muffler. Everything else is stock, gasket, everything else. For that matter, it runs pretty good. It has some goofy fuel line. I'm hoping it holds together. It really needs a different fuel line. And I also put an aftermarket carb kit. So there's the extent of its modifications. Paint and a carb kit.
Yeah, because these are like just the way people would get these saws.
Yeah.
And there again, that was the 625 theme, because that was the same as the 254 case and the 262 chassis.
Oh, I know.
So that was the open port version of that.
There is something non-stock on this saw. And I had to replace the handle, and it has a 55 handle.
Well, yeah, the tanking is really, it uses the 55 tank.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, because otherwise it wouldn't have fit.
Now, actually, what's the big difference between, power-wise, between a 55 and this one here? 'Cause this is an graded saw.
It's a few bigger CCs. It'll be interesting to compare these.
Yeah. So anyway, there's that. Got this little Joel, and I think this is these are, how do you call a saw pretty, but these are nice looking saws. And, we've gone back and forth talking about these, but we've never put it on video, kind of the transition saws.
Yeah, that,
It's a blending of some
Well,
partner stuff and some
there's
Jonsered
some partner
stuff.
theory there. There was no, but that's an exclusive Jonsered model. Unless guys that are in the upper Midwest or the Northeast, you're not likely to run across these. I think that is a really nice package. It's for a lemon saw. It's 44. It's easy to move around. I got one of those. I was going to bring it up, and I figured you're running that. We're trying to not have the same saw, so we got more stuff to show.
Yeah.
That responds pretty good to a muffler mod because it's really kind of restricted. But that's a good handle little package. But you're really not going to see too many of them around.
One thing I did notice on these, I don't know much about this chassis. You'd have to fill in the gaps, but I guess there's a few on the chassis. But when I pull the muffler to look at the piston to see if it was clean, which it is, the ports are huge for the size motor
Yeah.
on this saw.
Yep. What is that, like it's an 87.
1987?
Yeah.
But I like that saw. We're going to run that more today than the other ones, I think.
Well, I'm going to try to run some different stuff.
And the only thing non-stock on this one here is the total bar. But there was a time when Jonsered and the distributor that sold Jonsered actually sold total bars as well, so it's really not that far back. Cast of characters.
Yeah, and this is just a 2150. This is on the same as the 350 chassis, the plastic version of 346s. This is the open port 44 millimeter. It's not that vibration prone
Yeah.
353 cylinder, which I hate.
With a dish piston to make it a 350.
Yeah, and these all had the flat piston. I did ditch the gasket and open up the muffler. This is a good running saw.
That's the
Yeah.
hot rod.
Yeah, we've seen. It's not a hot rod.
It is a hot rod.
No, but it's but this is it's related. You've covered a lot of these with some performance builds.
Yeah.
The 350 chassis, and that's all been about trying to turn it into a 346. But we really haven't done much of these in a sense that in its own context of what it really is on its own. And these saws are actually, there's a 40 cc, there's a 45 cc. This whole chassis is really handy. They're plentiful out there, and there's plenty of parts. So I don't know if I'm going to run this or not. If I run these out of gas, I'll use this, but I may not even screw around with it.
This is the other 40 cc saw that I got. It's a Husqvarna 42, and we've briefed that chassis a little bit, and Bob has made those available. I've got a 238, and that's a 42. What?
Huh? Nothing.
And this one here actually made its first appearance in the videos with the cheap firewood saw, and I like that saw. It's a good running little lemon saw. And about the only thing I did to this was I went through my, I went through my series of saws and got all the plastic to match 42.
You're acting kind of
What are you
funny.
doing?
I want to check it.
Gee.
Yeah, what's your filter you got in this? You got the mesh one or the?
Just the only one I could find that would fit. It looks like that cover doesn't want to come off.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not glued.
Maybe that's it trying to tell you something. Maybe you should leave that cover right there.
Oh, no wonder you're acting so weird. This is
42.
we have it's a 242. Well,
Busted.
is this gonna get edited out?
Probably. maybe
Oh, come
not.
on.
Some
All
of
right,
it.
so you can put this back in the truck. So, well, most of the saws here are open port saws today.
Busted. What can I say? Well, maybe that one doesn't get a chance to run today. But these are nice saws.
Well, they are. It's a good chassis. That's a nice light chassis.
Now, tell me something. The 246 top end I have is an open port.
Yeah,
And how would that run as compared to this one?
not as good.
Really?
They run real good.
Yeah, they do. Well, the 238 is a screamer. And this one here is a sharp running saw too. But unfortunately, it doesn't qualify for this particular video, so it may run just to prove that it can, but I'm afraid it's going to end up going back on the truck. Now that's an interesting comparison right there.
Yeah.
One thing I can tell you right now is I know which one looks better. That's a no-brainer.
This isn't really much different in weight either.
No.
That bar is going to weigh a little more than that cheap laminated bar, though. But otherwise. All right, should we start playing?
Yes.
You tell everybody what the project is?
The project for today and probably the next few weeks, I don't know if I can take the camera and show. Bob wasn't as tough on me as I thought he would be. So anyway, what we have is I don't know, half a mile of hedgerow. Actually, probably closer to a mile when you start.
We're all done by lunchtime.
Yeah, and when you start adding up the hedgerows. And what we do is we go through and try to take down the trees that are leaning into the field and the branches that are overhanging the field. And it won't take you very much looking to see that I'll never get it done. So, I mean, we got this field, we got that one, you know, and then we have some hedgerow trees like that maple up there, that dead maple. That's a little bit big for today, but that'll be a get-together tree where we take that down and block it up. And then you see those other trees that are overhanging the fence, they got to come down, all that stuff. And that's really where a lot of the firewood's going to come from for the next couple of years. I want to see if I can let the ash come back and not take down much more of that. But no, we've got a full day. Let's put it this way, we have as much work as we want.
A full day. We've got a full month.
We got a full year. It would never end. But these open port saws are actually, you know, pretty much designed for this kind of work. That's what they were set up for. And I'm gonna say one more thing. All fun and games aside. And yeah, I was gonna tease Bob about running that 460. But and I've said this before, but there's one huge advantage to these saws. And this is actually counterintuitive. Because again, if you go online, it has to have the magnesium split cases, and it has to have all these things to make it a worthwhile saw. See all this plastic here, plastic handle? You know, it's a clamshell design where the bottom half of the case is plastic. When I leave it on the ground like that, or I leave it in the barn, or it sits in the back of my truck through a couple of rainstorms, what's going to corrode? Nothing. So for the average farmer, for the saw that rides around the back of the truck, you know, I'm going to make the supposition that that saw is an advantage over some of the pro saws. You know, the ones that are going to run it for a couple of weeks, put it away wet, not touch it until next year, or if there's a blowdown. My experience with those saws is they start really easy, even if they've been sitting for a very long time. And I've never seen any corrosion on those saws ever. So. Yeah, mine got a little compromised because there was frozen dirt on the tree. You know? Yeah, we can fire up the... I want to fire up that little one. I want to run the 55.
Yeah.
Get some of this stuff in here out with that.
I can't believe how horizontal some of these branches come out.
Yeah, I know. Well, we got to get this one out of the way too. Well, to me, the 257 is the keeper. It's in the same weight class as like the 555. A little bit bigger than the 50, but the thing I like about it is this. It got decent power, but it's really, really, really simple. And it's really not that far off a modern saw, if you want to call a X-Torque or one of those modern. Decent power, doesn't vibrate that much. This is one of those saws you can spend a day with, in my humble opinion. And it's so simple. My humble opinion, that's a keeper right there. Nice saw.
Well, you see now what I did with the chain and the sprocket thing. I mean, yeah, of course, we each like to gain a slight competitive edge against the other. You know, although the important distinction is that what I did was within the agreed upon rules. And And what you did was like flying, you know, exactly against what we agreed on. So we got the whole thing apart. For anybody that's not familiar with this family now, you get a little idea of how they go together. There. That's it.
There's a remnant from the past, that big old stump there.
All right, it's time for our end of the day summary discussion.
Yep.
And because it is 5 o'clock and I really have to get going and hit the road, we're going to spare everybody the traditionally painful over-analysis that we tend to do. But a couple of things before we get to the saws. In addition to Walt trying to sneak in that closed port 242, we have this box of donuts, and Walt was munching on a donut after dinner, and he said, yeah, I looked at him, he goes, oh, this is my second. And of course, there was originally 6 donuts in this box, and I know that I only had 2, so he really went through half the box. You want that last one?
No.
And you can start working on your weight program tomorrow?
No.
All right?
No.
So,
I'm shamed into not eating any more donuts today.
all right, well, it's a plain one anyway. I don't think I even got one of the cinnamon ones. So, anyway, so what, you want to toast this?
Good.
All right, we'll do that. You see the fire's kind of down.